Hey guys, welcome to this introduction to QuickDraw, a new add-on that Jama and I have created for Unreal Engine 5.6. With QuickDraw, you're going to be able to sketch directly in 3D, making Unreal even more suitable for concept art. At the end of this video, I'll go into some things that make Unreal really interesting for concept art. I definitely wouldn't look at it like a replacement for Blender and QuickTools, but you know, it's always about using the right tool for the specific job. And Unreal has just lots and lots of advantages for specific situations, but it doesn't really have like a concept modeling tool, and that's where QuickDraw is going to come in. So this is just a little time lapse of some of the things that QuickDraw brings to Unreal. You can design hard surface models, you can use Booleans, you can create curves and cables and pipes. So it's very similar to QuickTools and all of the things that you can do there with QuickShape and QuickCurve, but now in Unreal Engine. So let me get started by showing you how to install QuickDraw, and then we'll start going in one by one on all of these tools. Okay, so I don't know exactly how the Fab Marketplace download is going to come. It might be in a zip file that you have to unzip, but once you have QuickDraw next to install.txt, you're in the right place. All you have to do is go to your project that you created. So this is going to have to be done for every project. You'll have to do this install. And where the project is, you'll have your content folder that gets created every time you make a project. And you're going to take this QuickDraw that you downloaded and put it into this main content folder. And then you go into Unreal and it will be there under Content, QuickDraw. So we'll go in here. Generated is going to be something that you kind of have to manage sometimes. That's where when you convert a dynamic actor that you've drawn into a static actor, it'll be here. I'll come back to this later. So you might have to, you have to know about this. You might have to clean it up, or you might want to move it from generated into some other folder that you create. Content you don't have to go into. That's where all of the stuff is, all the assets we've set up, all these blueprints. Just show you guys some of these for fun. Let's see. Yes, so there's a lot. I mean, there's so many functions, so many nodes, but the good thing is that we went and created that so that you guys don't have to do it and you can just be creative and make stuff. The last thing that you need to do is go into Edit Plugins and enable a few of these. The first one is Geometry Script. Next, you search for Scriptable Tools and you want to enable Editor Mode and Framework. Then you want to enable Procedural Content Generation Framework, PCG. And then you want to restart Unreal after enabling those. After that, you will be able to see all of those tools in Scriptable Tools here. You'll see QuickShape, QuickCurve, convert selected meshes to dynamic actors, and convert selected meshes to static actors. Okay, so to launch QuickShape, you're just going to click on this button right here, and you're going to see this UI pop up. You're going to see a few meshes get created. They are all kind of managed under the hood, so don't worry about any of that stuff. You have accept and cancel here, and these have hotkeys. Most of these things, when you hover over them, they'll give you a description and they'll have some hotkeys. But to get started drawing, all you have to do is left click with your mouse, and then you start moving, and you'll see the UI, and then you can let go of left mouse, and you will have a mesh. You can switch between brushes by going over here, or we can use the hotkeys. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for box and Ngon and Circle. Box is the same left mouse and then you drag. Circle is going to be left mouse and drag. And Ngon works a little bit differently. You're going to click left mouse and just let go, and then press it again, press it again, press it again, and then to confirm it, you're going to press space. Now to set this depth, you're going to use this, or you can actually just use the brackets on your keyboard, and you can see that changing. And then the increment that changes with is going to be this value here. So if I do this 100, now when I click the brackets, it's going to go up in 100 units of depth. This, using G, is going to turn on interactive depth. So what that means is you're going to draw your shape, and then once you let go of your left mouse, you'll have this like in between mode where you move your mouse left and right, or up and down, and you can select the depth that you want. Okay, So we've covered all this stuff. Before we get into settings, let's look at the Booleans. So as we mentioned, by default, if you just hold left mouse, it'll create this. If you hold Control while you're drawing, it'll be red and you can Boolean. If you hold Shift, it'll be this green line, and this will actually separate. So I will mention right now, this is a good example. Unreal is kind of, you're not like switching between 100 things really quickly with hotkeys like in Blender. You kind of do one thing at a time. So selecting this and moving it is kind of annoying. So you would cancel or exit the tool, and then you would try to move stuff. But you can see how that separate Boolean worked. That is really convenient to have. And then you just go back in here, Control to Boolean or draw. Okay, so that's Booleans, and that is drawing. So we have two resolution settings. The first one is going to be a very simple, the lower that is, the less polygons there are going to be. So if we get this to 50, it will stick to the drawing much more closely. And then this is the minimum distance between the points. So if you start doing something that has like a very sharp corner, you might want to lower that. If if you increase polygon resolution very high, you might still not get that corner to be perfect. And in that case, you'll need to adjust the curve resolution, because there's kind of this two-step process. It's drawing a curve and then it's converting it to polygons. So both of those resolutions are important, but usually 20 for me seems like it's pretty good, and sometimes I'll just lower that or double it. Drawing threshold is a setting that determines when you've actually started drawing. So when you click left mouse and you move, right now you're not drawing, even though I've started moving it a little bit. And then once it gets past a certain threshold, it starts to draw. So in the case of a very small scene or trying to make a very small object, you will need to lower this value. But 10 is pretty good for my monitor. Okay, for cut through, I want to be able to show you guys this depth setting. So let's say we increase this to 400, draw a shape. Now let's lower this back down to 50, and let's turn cut through off. So if we draw here, it's not going to go all the way through, it's just going to go 50 units of depth, since that's what we specified. Now if we turn cut through on, what it's going to do is go through this unit, so 1,000. So if I go here, it's going to cut all the way through. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's very important. If you have cut through off, or if you have cut through on, and you see that it's not going all the way through, that just means that you need to increase max cut distance up, because your mesh is just bigger. Okay, let's close that. Let's go to box. Let me actually just clean this up a little bit now. Okay. When you are drawing with a box, it will be a rectangle by default. If you turn on this N key to force box proportions, it will just be a square. If you do box center with J, it will draw it from the center. And you can do both of these, and you will draw a bunch of squares. Circle resolution is for circle. So if we do this to 4, it's going to be that. Let's do 12, it'll be low res. And 32 is just a nice clean circle. Okay, so now let's talk about the work plane. This is very important. This is how you're going to be figuring out where you're drawing. So by default, it aligns a work plane to the polygonal surface of whatever your first click is. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's very simple to understand. There's this grid. So if I click on this grid, then you can imagine that this grid is the work plane, and I'm drawing on that. If I turn off first point, it will be drawing on this you will actually see the grid, because it's not going to be using the surface. Actually, before I show you that, let me just demonstrate. So now with first point, there's a new polygonal surface right here. So if I click on this first, now I'm going to draw on that. So if I click on this, Control, and I can do that. Or I can click here, and that will be the work plane, and that will draw. So it's actually pretty simple. If I can turn this off with F or clicking it, then I can see the work plane gizmo here by pressing V. And this is just helpful to actually move it around. You don't need to move it like this, but it's good to rotate it. Oops, okay, so and then it is nice to move it just to see it better. And now I can, even though I don't have any polygon here, I have this work plane, so I can go ahead and draw. And that's what I was doing at the start of the video. So that's really cool, and I can just keep moving it if I want to do this and do that, say like that, and then draw something there. And a way to set the work plane. So if I don't have first point, so if I have first point, right, I need to already start drawing. So the downside of that is, let's say, just kind of artistically, I want to start drawing from here, but I want to be on this surface. So what you can do is, instead of using first point, you can control click, and where you control click, it will set the work plane. So now this work plane is set here, but I can start drawing here, and it will still be above that. You see how that works? So I can control click, and it will set that there. I can control click and set that there. So there's the three ways to do it. You use V and move it around, you control click, or you use first point. I just ran into something that is going to be a great example to show you guys. When you have first point off, if you have, let's say, two different objects, this object is selected. So on first point, once it clicks, it's going to assign that, it's going to like select it under the hood because it's looking at the polygon as we discussed, and it sets the work plane there, and so that object becomes selected. If you don't have first point, then it doesn't really have that. Like for example here, it doesn't know, because the work plane is set to here and the object is ignored. So what you want to do in that case is control click. And when you control click, with the work plane gets set, but also the object gets selected. So as you can see here, there's kind of a weird thing in Unreal with the scriptable tools where you're not really selecting something. Like as you can see here, you can kind of go in like this, but that's not very convenient. And it actually didn't work there. Yeah, so you just want to do this control click with the work plane to set that object, unless you just have first point. I hope that makes sense. I mean, if you, as you work and figure it out in a experiment, it'll become really clear. The work plane is also kind of the way to select an object if first point is off. That's a good way to explain it. Another fun thing that we've added is a voxel resolution. So if I set this to, let's say 40, and I draw right here, this is going to be voxelized. It doesn't get voxelized together, but maybe that's something that we can add in the future if Unreal kind of makes that easier. But this is really cool, and you can still do all the Booleans and stuff. That's really awesome. It just has to be above 0 to be activated. And then material is very self-explanatory. Let me just use some random one. And yeah, it'll just apply the material right away, and that goes for all of the different brushes that we have. Okay, so that pretty much covers all of QuickShape. So you just, the little like gotcha things, and gone, you have to click instead of drag, and you confirm with space. Pay attention to cut through and the max cut through distance. Watch for the resolution, and everything else is pretty simple. You know, you just kind of take it step by step. You draw out your little shapes, move the work plane, add details with Boolean, and it's just so incredibly amazing to have that in Unreal, where you're in this kind of realistic setting. Obviously you can edit it to fit your scene, fit your world. I'll show you guys some of the other scenes that I've been working in. But okay, that's QuickShape. Now to use QuickCurve, you're gonna select QuickCurve here. You're gonna press and hold the left mouse button. You're gonna draw, and once you let go of left mouse, a curve will appear. This works, by the way, not just with the mouse, but with a Wacom tablet. It goes for QuickShape as well. So we also have the same drawing threshold here from QuickShape, works the same way. And then we have a lot of brushes. So let's go to square. This is the 2 hotkey. And you'll have a square profile. For the custom brush, you want to select a custom object here. Let's use the cone. So we're here in the custom section. You want to make sure that's done. And then we can draw. And we have these points kind of scattered on the curve. And the amount here is controlled by these samples. We'll come back to this in a second. So when you select this curve, on the right here, you're going to see a bunch of settings. So every quick curve is going to be procedural. So you can go down here, size, and change the size. In this case, the origin is a little messed up. Well, it's not messed up. It's just that the way that the cone object is, it is not going to be, it's going to be like that. Okay, yeah. So you just want to be mindful when you're making your custom object, you know, where's the origin so that it can go onto the curve in the way that you intend. Anyways, when you have this curve selected, you have a bunch of these settings here. You can change the size, you can change the samples. Let's start looking at the other brushes here. So we have cables. Actually, let me prepare something for the cables. Let me just draw these two. Move them up. Okay. So the way cables works is you want to start drawing on a polygonal surface and then end your drawing on a polygonal surface. And it'll ignore every point that you like drew in the middle, and it'll just do start and end and draw a bunch of cables in between. So those initial, and you'll see here there's initial settings and there's the procedural settings. So it used the initial settings, so it doesn't matter now that you change this here. But if you go select this curve and you go down to the curve setting, let's see here, the cable setting, okay, and now you can change this amount. You can change the spread, max spread, change the drag, and of course you can change the size. So that's really cool. And then if you were to delete that and go to quick curve, and you can change the setting here, do that drawing again, and it's gonna work like that. And then again, you can procedurally change this. So that's how that works for custom and for cables as well. I should show actually that even with, say, circle, you can go in and change this procedurally. Okay. So if you wanted to, in the default Unreal modeling mode section, you wanted to do a revolve, you'd have to create this, and then you kind of click. There's no lasso to just draw this out. And then you have to go all the way back here, and you'll have your path. And that goes for other things like extrude polygon. Let's say we have a rectangle. You click, click, and then there's another click, and then there's another click. And only then do you have something, and then you complete. So quick shape and quick curve kind of make all of this so much faster. But I wanted to particularly show that revolve path and how cool it is to do our revolve, because you have this thing. You don't have to worry about the orientation or anything. You just have to go, instead of setting the rotation grid, it's kind of fixed. So you just have to go here, and you see where the major axes are all pointing this way. So you want to be drawing on this side. And now you have lasso, and you can just draw. And you don't have to complete it. You can just let go. And that is so much faster and so much more creative. And that's like a workflow that we have in Blender with Quick Curve that we've now brought into Unreal. Okay, so that covers the brushes. We have Ngon as well if you press Q. And that just is like a line mode. So if you click, 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 it will create an Ngon. You just press space to confirm, just like quick shape. And that works for all the brushes. You have the same brush size settings, and with brackets you can edit it just like I've already shown. You have the samples and the resolution. Closed loop is cool. It will just make it cyclic. And that is with C. Okay. You have the workplane. So by default, it just draws on the surface. So let me actually show by just creating something like that. So in Quick Curve, if I were to do this by default, it'll just draw on the surface. It'll like project array. And then if you want to use the work plane, you can. You can just do the same stuff with visualizing the work plane. You can move it around. So let's say I put it up here, and now I can just draw like that, and it'll be on the work plane. You can also control click, just like in Quick Shape. So control click. You can rotate it. Oops. There we go. And now you're drawing on that plane. That's a little confusing. Let me move this over. See? So now you're drawing on that plane. And then you can go rotate it like this, move it up, and now you're drawing on this plane. Super cool. Just to have that in Unreal, it kind of blows my mind. It's awesome. And I should mention a cool thing about on Surface is it will go curve over curve. So that's nice. Doing cables and just all kinds of details. Just like Quick Shape, we also have voxel resolution here, so we can set that. And every curve is going to be voxelized. And we can set a custom material. Now let's look at the final two tools that are included in QuickDraw. This is convert to static and convert to dynamic. Now, the reason that that's important is because, well, let me just draw a shape first, and then let me draw a curve. Okay, so these objects, they exist in the scene, but obviously this curve is procedural. It's not necessarily procedural, but it is dynamic. And so what that means is they don't really exist in here in the content folder. You can't really do anything with them. So in order to convert it, what you want to do is go to convert selected mesh to static actor. And once you've clicked that, now you've got this. And you can see this changed. It is a static mesh actor. And now if you go into generated, it is in here and you have this mesh and you can do whatever you want with that. You can move it around, you can duplicate it and make all kinds of changes to it. It'll update as an instance. If you instance it, it just becomes a typical Unreal mesh. If you've already done some work in the modeling section here, you'll understand what I mean, but that's kind of the basic introduction. And same goes for the curve. And then if you want to turn it back, you can just do that. And sometimes it's better to just use the modeling version. The Scriptable Tools one is particularly useful for Revolve. That's kind of you kind of need this one for that. But yeah, I mean, Unreal is also changing. In 5.5, when we started these tools, it was a little bit different, and these were more important. 5.6, things are changing. And if you guys know us from Blender and from Quick Tools, we've been developing Blender add-ons for about 5 years now. There have been countless updates and improvements, lots and lots of new features, and it's all for free after that first purchase. And we want to do the same thing for QuickDraw and the Unreal add-ons. And the Unreal tools and any other future add-ons that we may make. So it's always kind of this collaborative process. If you guys see a problem or you have some suggestions, please join our Discord. It's going to be on the screen here. I'll probably put a thing, and it's also in the description. We have just a nice peaceful art community, and it's really cool. Really nice to have a place like that these days. And okay, let's cover the last couple of things that I wanted to show, which is level instancing. So let's say you draw something like, actually, let me go create a new map. So this is going to be our working map. This one that's called new map. Let's go create a new level, basic. We're going to save it, and this is going to be VO1. Okay, so we're in VO1. By the way, I've noticed that sometimes this was happening in the earlier Unreal, and I haven't had it in 5.6, but I'll just say sometimes when you switch, when you just open Unreal and you try and click Quick Shape, it might not draw because it kind of glitches out with the default level, so you have to go into the level and actually open it up. But I haven't had that happen in 5.6 yet, just gonna cover all my bases. There really aren't many glitches or errors at this point that I've found. Okay, so I am in VO1. I'm gonna go into quick shape. I'm just gonna draw some thing. Except I'm gonna select all of these, right click and go to level, create level instance. And this is going to be, let's say, my design. Now if I wanted to edit my design at any point, I can press Control E when I'm on it. And that brings me back into this mode where every object is separate. I can add something to it, click accept, click save. There's my level instance. So if I haven't pressed Control E, then it's just this main unit. Let me show that again. Let's add some serious depth to this. Let's add a section here. Okay, so accept, save. Okay, so now I have this main thing. So now let's go into my new map, and I can drag this level instance that I made, design. And I can place it here, I can place it here, I can place it here, I can rotate it. And now if I go back into my VO1, let me save that actually. Okay, back into my VO1, click my level instance, Control E to begin editing, and then I can move this over here. I can go into Scriptable Tools. Let's draw some curves around here like that. Whoops. Because I was messing with all these settings. The settings get saved through uses. Okay. So I have this, I save this level instance. And now if I go back to my new map, it gets updated. That is really, really cool. Okay, here's just one of the scenes that I made. And obviously these ships were with QuickDraw. This is one of the just awesome, beautiful things about Unreal, where you can just take Megascans assets and have this amazing kitbash library, and then you can just add a few sketches in, and you have something that you're ready to develop further in Photoshop. And you kind of designed it all in that world, and that just gives a different, very fun feeling. Let me show you guys the levels. So I use the level instance workflow here. Whoops. So there's one of the ships. I actually like this one. I might use this for a different project. It's kind of like a cargo thing. I like this, yeah. And then this one. It's really simple. It is hard to get super detailed in Unreal with these tools, but it's, on the other hand, it's just, you spend time. It's like anything else. You just spend time, you start drawing more Booleans, more little shapes, more curves, and you can get there. Here's another example. This is a little bit more detail here. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun to design while you're in this realistic lighting as opposed to the gray box all the time. And then I just made level instances out of these and put them in that scene. Here is another scene that I've made with QuickDraw. Just some simple architectural elements, but it's great to be able to sketch that in while I have the lighting, I have the fog, and the materials, and everything's kind of set up. I can just draw it in. That was really convenient and just easy to do with the tools that we've made. And I've actually also have, this was another shot that I did, and I did the sword as well. Very simple, extremely, extremely simple, but yeah, it's nice to not have to deal with the time of going into a different program or having to box model it. You know, I just want to draw it really quick and be done. What else can I show you guys? I was thinking it might be nice for, like, as concept artists, to have some kind of simple weather effects as well. That's not included yet, but in the future, maybe some clouds, some snow, rain, and kind of maybe our own version of fog, some kind of painterly thing. There's a lot of possibilities that we can do, a lot of things we can do with Unreal. And just, you know, automating the boring stuff so that people can do creative stuff. That's what we've been about since the beginning. Just a little bit to discuss why I think Unreal is so cool for concept art. And we both just think that Unreal has some really interesting advantages, such as just the infinite geometry that you can use. You don't have to worry about how high resolution something is, or the textures. You can just set it all up. It's all good. You can instance as much as you want. You can create these incredibly detailed scenes. You have perfect fog, God rays. You can switch to path tracing if you want, like a really nice render, and it's still super fast. But it's really nice to be able to set things up and see it like instantly, and then just switch to the rendering at the last minute to get that nice bounce lighting. And something that I think is really important is the Megascans asset library. As I mentioned here, in other programs like Blender, there's so many different people creating their own asset libraries, kitbash, and everything is kind of disorganized, and there's no just one like generic way to set everything up, from materials to models. In Unreal, everyone just sticks to the Megascan thing. First of all, you just use Megascans most of the time. But then if you're getting something from Fab or from somewhere else, some asset that you've downloaded, it all just kind of has to come in a certain way. It all plugs into the landscape mode a certain way, and everything's just very easy to use. And it becomes this kind of thing where it's like every object is a brush, and that's only possible because of this first line, which is the infinite geometry that Unreal allows. And then we already touched on these two items here, where you have the level instances, which is such a cool setup for variations and just being able to iterate on your design and then having your main scene update right away, and just not working in the sterile gray box. Really, the only thing missing from Unreal, in my opinion, and in our opinion for concept art, was just that ability to quickly sketch some basic thing without having to go and import, export. Import and export is actually like the most annoying part about Unreal, because you know, things have to get oriented, the shaders aren't right. So just staying in Unreal is really, really helpful. And that's where QuickDraw comes in. So I hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys liked the video. Hope you guys joined the Discord. Let me know what you think. Thank you.